My name is Katie Stipatich, and my exceptionality was depression in children and teens. And in my research, I found that according to the National Institute of Mental Health, depression is one of the most common mental disorders in the United States. And just an interesting fact for you, women are 70% more likely to experience depression than men. I found that kind of interesting. But depression is very common, and it can be a very serious illness. It not only affects a child's mood, but it can negatively affect their school performance as well, which is why us as educators are very concerned with depression. Depression has shown to significantly be related to poor academics, academic grades in school, and it even has a decrease in the likelihood for a student to graduate from high school. Depression is more than just feeling sad. Often when a child feels sad, the feelings are often very short-lived. Unlike depression, it can be a very serious mental illness. The illness involves the brain, and it tends to interfere with daily life and cause pain to a person. Many different people who have depression never tend to seek treatment. However, medications, psychotherapies, and other different types of methods can help people with depression. What is depression, you might ask? The National Library of Medicine states it as, depression is a mental health condition. It's a mood disorder in which feelings of sadness, loss, anger, or frustration interfere with daily life for weeks or longer. There are several factors that may cause depression, though doctors and researchers don't know the exact causes of them. But some of these causes come from factors that can be genetic, biological, environmental, or psychological. And some of the causes may even include alcohol or drug use, medical conditions, even medicines that a person may be on, sleeping problems, and stressful life events. For children and teens, the causes might more likely be from their family, their peers at school, school life in general, or even just daily stresses that stress them out. So depression in adults and depression in children are similar, yet they are very different too. In children, the signs are harder to notice. Children and teens are going through puberty, they're forming identities, and they're getting the option to make choices independently. So they're going through a lot of changes, and day to day is very different for each child. Just because a child has anxiety one day doesn't mean that they have depression. But in adults, depression often coincides with other disorders, and that's not necessarily true with children. So what are those signs and symptoms? Like I said, the signs are harder to see or notice in children and teens. On this slide, I have a list, or quite a long list, of different signs that you would see, from sad and anxious or empty feelings to irritability. Some children may lose interest in playing hockey or doing some of their other hobbies that they enjoy to do. They might have a difficulty concentrating in the classroom, which would be something that a teacher would notice right away. Insomnia, thoughts of suicide, which could be very scary, or just regular aches, pains, headaches, or cramps. Depression oftentimes changes the way a person sees themselves, life, and the people around them. So they usually see a lot of negative, and it's hard for them to solve problems in a positive way. So how is depression diagnosed? Once a person shows signs of depression, it's important to get them help or treatment to see if they in fact have depression. One of the first steps in getting appropriate treatment would be to visit a doctor or a specialist in mental health. Just your regular doctor could do a physical exam. They could interview and do some lab tests, which would help in determining if the person in fact has depression. The next step then is a psychological exam. A psychological evaluation or exam is done if no medical condition is causing the depression, which in children usually it's not. During this evaluation, the symptoms can be discussed, when they started, how long they've lasted, how severe the symptoms are, so on and so forth. A mental health specialist can also determine if there's any anxiety disorders or other serious medical illnesses. Next would be then to determine treatment options. Treatment often includes medications like antidepressants that work on brain chemicals known as neurotransmitters that help in regulating the mood. For children and teens, however, we'd want them to stay away from medications, and so as teachers, the best treatment would be to help these students in the classroom with modifications, accommodations, and giving them strategies to help with depression. So what exactly does depression look like in children and teens? The characteristics and symptoms are similar to that of adults. However, in a school setting, it does look a little bit different. So this is a list of different things you might see present in a classroom with a child who has depression. One of the first ones is physical complaints like school absences, sleepiness, or lack of participation. Irritability is a big one. They could have problems with their social life and maybe not have a positive social relationship with any of their peers. They might have a difficulty concentrating or have poor work completion or performance. Their feelings might get easily hurt. They might even act out in character or have pessimistic comments. These are just some of the symptoms that I found or some of the characteristics that I found in my research. However, there are, I'm sure, a lot more that can be present in a child or a teen. So now you might be asking, as educators, what can we do? There's several things we can do, and in the next few slides I'm going to talk about some of the accommodations, modifications, or even some of the strategies you can use with children who seem to be depressed or show depressive symptoms. In my research, I found 4 different strategies for helping children with depression. And while outside resources like a medical professional may be able to prescribe medication, it is a responsibility of the school to provide assistance to students who are depressed or who show signs of depression. So the 4 strategies are listed here. The first one is to collaborate. Second one is to build social skills and peer relationships. Third is to maximize opportunity for success. And 4 is to report progress and give feedback. The first one is to collaborate. And by collaborate, I mean to collaborate with all school personnel, such as obviously the student, parents, other teachers, counselors like the guidance counselor, the school psychologist, a physician or a mental health specialist. A school counselor's services alone are not really sufficient enough to effectively help those students with depressive disorders. So a comprehensive approach, which encourages a positive, caring relationship among all the parties, is really, really important. Within this group of professionals, it's important to pick out specific goals for that student as to how they could better manage their behavior with their academics and their social life. With the student, it's important to stay consistent and meet regularly with them to discuss their progress, either weekly, monthly, etc. There are 4 major areas in which depression typically affects a student's work. Those 4 different areas are work completion, work submission, social interactions, and physical activity. So it's important that the goals that are made should target those 4 major areas. It's also important to monitor the student's work and provide feedback frequently, and all these people can monitor their work and provide feedback. So once that working relationship is set up, then it's important to work with them on building social skills and their relationships with their peers. One strategy that we could use to build up a student's poor social relationships is to promote social interaction. Sometimes students need positive peer relationships, and if these relationships are in jeopardy or don't even exist, it can contribute to a student's depression. So in the classroom, there's two different ways or two different strategies that I found in my research. One of them being doing some role playing, and then another one is providing the students with social vocabulary so they can interact or know what to say in their peer relationships. Another thing a teacher could do in the classroom is encourage cooperative group activities, and this allows the student to share cognitive responsibilities and rid the student of feeling stressed about engaging in group work, make them a little bit less stressed. And the teacher could even carefully select group members who work with that specific student. And no matter what type of group work or social situations arise in the classroom, it's important that the teacher intervenes when necessary and encourages a positive learning environment that will include everybody. The third strategy is to maximize opportunity for success. And the way to do this is to increase the amount of success they are having in school. One of the ways to do this is to develop study strategies with the student. Also to help the student break down their assignments into tasks and provide them with a timeline for when to complete each task. And for the timeline, you could base the timeline on, for example, when the student feels best, or maybe when they have the most amount of energy. The teacher could also modify or shorten their tasks depending on the assignment. For tests, an example of one way to help a student with depression on their tests is to give them a study guide that focuses on the most important material or the key points of a topic. It's shown that students with depression will benefit from those types of study guides. The teachers can also coach the student to develop study strategies like making outlines, conceptual mapping, and using mnemonic devices. And this helps aid with memory skills because memory skills are often low when a child is depressed. And then in addition, to increase positive reinforcement and then provide multiple opportunities for the learned material to be learned. So just that repetition of facts and information for students who are depressed. The fourth one is to report progress and give feedback. Depression can lead to low self-esteem, so showing the student their progress and their work that they've accomplished could really boost that self-esteem and their self-concept. We should also provide concrete evidence of their success. For example, showing them an assignment or project or a test in which they did really, really well on, and then keeping that to show their progress and their success to not only the student, but maybe to the parents and some of the other specialists. Encouraging and positive feedback not only can be shown through an assignment either, it can be through verbal feedback also. So throughout the day, giving that verbal, encouraging feedback, even just some gestures throughout the school day. And then to check up on the progress that the student has made and provide the feedback then when you check up with them. So to review the depression PowerPoint, depression is to be taken very seriously. Children and teens need their educators and their teachers on their side to be able to help them with any kind of modifications, accommodations, or any kind of strategies they can help them with. The 4 strategies I've discussed in this presentation was collaboration, building social skills and peer relationships, maximizing the opportunity for success, reporting the progress, and giving feedback. And lastly, these are my sources. Thanks for watching my presentation on depression. I hope